All right, here we go.
Okay.
This is the maiden voyage for
Maiden voyage.
the Rx Rehab podcast. Okay,
Oh,
so
really? This is a
yeah.
podcast.
This is a podcast.
Okay.
So Roxanna, how about you say hi to our massive Rx Rehab audience?
Hello.
Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, I'm a client of the Rx Rehab, and I've really enjoyed. I'm not on the screen. Did you see that? You need to move that.
Hold on.
There you go.
There we go.
Or
Yeah, scoot it. There we go. Scooting in.
okay. And I've been coming for 2 years now.
Yes.
Off and on.
For the same problem or for
different, a variety of things, but I came in with a really bad knee.
okay.
And I had Moderna shot, and it seemed to affect my already bad knee. And then I was just in tremendous pain, all up my leg, but mostly in the knee. And I couldn't go upstairs correctly. I couldn't just walk normally. And a month before, in December, this was in February when I had the shot. In December, I was still riding my bike at the track and just enjoying that, and was fine. But anyway, so I had an injury, but it was during COVID, and so I assumed that I was going to have surgery, that was going to be what would happen. But as it turned out, that wasn't much of an option, and I saw your clinic lecture on knees.
Why wasn't surgery an option for you?
Well, because of COVID. They weren't really
Yeah.
doing, those surgeries at that time. And so I went ahead and we went to your workshop, and there in your workshop discovered that there was another option. It was like this light bulb moment where I thought, because you explained that you had a knee injury and that you worked for it and you worked through it. And I had noticed that a lot of my friends who'd had knee replacements did have difficulties with it. It wasn't just a one and done kind of thing. They still had to exercise. They still had to work hard. And so I thought that I would try it at least, and I couldn't have gotten into surgery anyway. So I thought I'd go ahead and try your method.
If surgery had have been an option for you at that time, would you have tried physical therapy?
Not after your workshop.
Yeah.
But I was becoming more and more adverse to it. Mostly because I had this one little friend who'd had both her knees replaced, and on Facebook everything was grand. But when I started talking to her personally, it wasn't so good.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she wasn't, healing as well.
What kind of things was she saying?
Just that her knees were still hurting all the time, and that she was, she hated the exercise, and that she was just having a very difficult time getting going. And she was about my age, and it had been a while. It had been a good year and a half, and she was still having trouble. And so I just felt very concerned to go into surgery. Plus, my husband had just been in the hospital for a month.
Was it with COVID, or was it?
He was with MRSA. He had a throat operation, and he got MRSA, and so he was really ill. So we were a little bit hesitant to go into the hospital.
Okay, so your friend had the knee surgery. She had a knee replacement. Didn't saying some glowing things on Facebook and social media, but when you got down to it, it wasn't all peaches and cream for her.
Well, a year and a half later, after the glowing, wore off, she was still miserable. So, and I thought, one thing I thought was that, well, she's having to do all this exercise before surgery, and Scott thinks that I can improve without surgery, but I still have to do the exercise. I may as well be diligent and try the exercise.
Right.
So I thought I'd give it a year at that time.
Very good. So, just to kind of give people a background, we used to do these workshops at the clinic where we would talk about knee pain or shoulder pain and give people some education about different causes of knee pain, shoulder pain. Roxanna came to a workshop on knee pain, and she mentioned that I had said in the workshop that I had had a knee injury previously as well, and that kind of gave you some encouragement that it could get better without surgery. Yeah.
It's the first I even considered it.
Yeah.
I just thought I was getting old and this was inevitable.
Yeah.
And that this was part of just aging, and it very shortly I realized that I had a lot to do with my own health. And that I didn't have to just it wasn't inevitable to just deteriorate.
Yeah.
And I've been with you for 2 years now. Different things have popped up like it does when you hit your 70s. Different things will pop up. And but I feel like I'm healthier than I was 5 years ago.
Good.
So
Very
I
good.
really do.
Very good. So my knee pain that Roxanna mentioned, I had in my early 20s. I was playing basketball at a church. Church ball is like dangerous. People don't do it. Just kidding. But we were playing this. It was just a pickup game. We were playing a game and we were just getting creamed, and I was frustrated. And this guy was going up for a shot, and I ran and jumped and to try and block the shot. Did not block the shot, and I came down, landed on my leg. So I landed on my leg, and my knee, like if this is the bottom bone, my shin bone, and this is my femur. When I landed, it felt like that, like the knee dislocated, just really quickly, and then popped back in. And it hurt pretty bad. Anyways, I ended up going to a doctor. Long story short, it was a torn ACL, torn meniscus. At the time, I was told that torn ACL, the only option you have is surgery. So I got the surgery. 3 years later, I was playing church basketball again, and I felt a sharp pain in my knee, and I knew immediately it was a meniscus tear. I was in physical therapy school at the time, ironically, and it I knew I had a really good idea at least of what was going on. I'm like, it was meniscus. Meniscus was damaged before. It was a lateral meniscus, and when I re-injured it 3 years later, it would lock up on me, and so it was likely a bucket handle tear of the meniscus, which essentially what it is a fragment will flip up in your knee. A meniscus fragment will flip up in your knee, and it will actually lock your knee up. And so when that would happen to me, it would be extremely painful. I had a hard time putting any weight on my knee at all. And I kind of learned a trick that if I flexed my quads and pulled my foot up, it would like cause compression in the joint. And it almost felt like it would push that fragment back into place. And then immediately I was able to bear weight on it.
Oh.
It was kind of crazy. But anyways, I would, like the stages of mourning, Roxanna? Like denial and then bargaining.
This is after church ball.
Yeah.
You're sad.
I was sad. Like I don't want to get another surgery because, one, if I had gone to a doctor at that time, a surgeon, like I would be willing to bet a lot of money they would have told me at that time that I had to get a surgery to fix that.
Yeah.
It wasn't going to get better on its own. But I was in a position, I was in PT school, I was a poor student, I didn't have the time, I didn't have the money,
You mean by poor student, you mean financially.
Financially.
You were a good student.
I was a good student. Yes, thank you. I was a good student, but financially was very poor. And so, and on top of that, like I knew, like one of the things is with a meniscus tear, like that's that bad. One of the things that you have to end up doing is you have to be non-weight bearing for a while.
Yeah.
You can't put any weight on it. And I was a PT student. I was going to be going into clinicals. I had to do stuff. I couldn't be non-weight bearing on that knee. And so if I wasn't going to be able to be non-weight bearing on the knee, then they would have had to do a surgery that would have just removed the majority of the meniscus. And then, like, thinking long term, if they had done that, then it just would not have been good prognosis long term. And so
you would eventually have needed a knee replacement.
Yeah, probably. Who knows? I might have had a knee replacement right now. But anyways, so I just had to hope that it would get better, and so I had to stop doing what I was doing that was aggravating it, because I would like try and run on a treadmill, and then it would hurt, and then I'm like, oh, I'll give it a few days, it would calm down. I'd try and run again, and it would hurt, and I'd give it a few more days and calm down. I eventually kind of went through this cycle of, pain and then rest and pain and rest, and got to the point where I'm like, I gotta just stop. And so I told myself I'm gonna give myself a year and just rest, and then after a year I'm gonna start trying to run and rehab my knee. And that's what I did, and I was able to get it better. But so that was the story. There's more to it as well than that, but that's essentially the gist of the story Roxanna was referring to that I told in the workshop. And so with your knee, like, did you have problems before you got COVID or the shot?
But I did have problems before I had COVID, but I would always just ride my bike, and and it would ride it, whatever it was. And so I was going along pretty good until I had the shot, and I had been a month with my husband in the hospital, tending him while he was in the hospital. I think that contributed to my knee not being well,
because you weren't getting that.
Yeah, I couldn't bike.
Yeah.
And so I was kind of mesmerized by the idea that you could actually just fix it through time and patience and some commitment. You had to be a commitment. Committed.
Yeah.
And think of it in the long term. And I'm really glad I did. What I found out was that year that I was in PT for my knee, everything got better. Everything on me got better because I was exercising, and I was able to get back to biking a lot, and loved it, and it just made everything better. And my daughter, who is a nurse practitioner, she said, well, Mom, exercise is the fountain of youth. If you want to get, stay young and stay active, that's what you need to do. And so it was just, what I liked most about you, Scott, was that you worked on muscles gradually. And so, like before, I couldn't really do any kind of a deep knee bend of any kind. So you had me do this little thing. And I thought, well, it's not doing very much, but it's all I can do anyway. And I did that forever, And then I moved up to the next thing until I could actually do squats. But you seem to work a group of muscles until they were happy, until then moved to the next step.
Yeah.
And that was very helpful.
Yeah, and so that's the thing about physical therapy is, when people come into the clinic, what I like to ask them is, what is it you're trying to get out of therapy? Like, where are you at right now, and what are your goals? For you, I remember one of your goals was you had the Disney trip, right?
I did.
And what was your goal with the Disney trip?
Well, that was fun. My son, right after I got in clinic, my son said, "Mom, we're going to Disney World, and do you want to come?" And I thought, it's 4 months away. Could I possibly get into that kind of a shape, that I could do Disney? Because I enjoyed the experience and had had fun. And I go with your grandkids. It's just a hoot.
Mm-hmm.
But and so Brooke was working then,
Mm-hmm.
and she was doing a lot of my massage work on my knee. And she set me up a chart just to try and get steps. When I first started walking on the canal road, I could maybe walk half a block,
Mm-hmm.
and in pain, just in pain.
Yeah.
But we just kept, trying to do a little more, and I kept up with the exercise, and I was very diligent. And that first year in June, in the really hot weather, we went to Florida, and with this family of 4 kids and 4 grandkids, and my son and his wife, and we did all the parks, and we were going every day. And so I would use one of those little chairs, one of those little electric chairs, to get me around, and then every night ice my knee and do my stretches, because I thought, I'm going to blow it out again if I just start walking. It worked really good. And one day I even had 16,000 steps that day. And it worked, because I followed, the instructions of icing it and every night and stretching well. And so that went well, and it was a fun trip, but I did use the chair. And the year later, my husband and daughter went to Walt Disney World, and we went to 3 of the parks, and we walked all day, and I didn't have any problem at all. So that was just a miracle, Dee. That was an absolute miracle.
Yeah, and it didn't happen overnight.
No.
Like, it took a while. It took a lot of consistent effort on your part.
Consistent.
Yeah, but you were
proactive.
committed. Very proactive.
Yeah.
Yes. Roxanna's been one of our best patients.
I'm always after the praise too.
So. She really has, because she's been committed and very diligent, and it's taken time, and it hasn't been always. It hasn't. Would you say that the progress that you've had when you started, was it like the trajectory just always uphill, or was it more up and down and then just trended up? What would you say it is?
My leg hurt 24/7. It hurt all the time. And so at night, my nights were miserable. And that 24/7 pain just slowly lessened. But even 9 months later, it was still there. It was just down to about a 4 instead of an 8.
Yeah.
And so I would say it was just a slow. Which way would you go, up or down? A slow recovery up of gradually getting better. Yeah, it was surprising to me.
So, let me ask you this: had you gone to any other doctors about your knee?
Well, that was interesting. I went when I was younger to a doctor, and he said that you'll never need a knee replacement, and I was happy for that. But then after the year that I had been, I wanted to see what state it was in. And so I went to a orthopedic surgeon my daughter recommended, and talked to his PA. And they took x-rays and everything, and came into the waiting room where I was waiting, flapped him up there and said, well, we can get you in next week. You need both of your knees done.
Ooh.
And I said, but I don't have any pain. And he said, what? And he looked at my chart and everything, and he goes, oh. And I said, well, I've been doing PT. And he goes, oh, well, you can get out of it that way. You you can go ahead and exercise and work and yeah, this you can go ahead and do this for another 20 years and be okay.
Mm-hmm.
But you'll have to be consistent. I think he said that even. But I had written on the chart that I didn't have any pain, that I was just after an evaluation. But he missed that part, I guess. And
So why was he jumping to the conclusion that you were needing a knee replacement?
my meniscus was torn in
Uh-huh.
in like 3 or 4 different areas on both knees,
Mm-hmm.
and I had a Baker cyst, and I had bone spurs, and uh, and arthritis, and so he was expecting a lot of pain,
Yeah.
just from the way the X-rays looked, but he didn't know that I had been doing all this movement and exercise on them, because I had all the symptoms for a bone, needing a knee uh, replacement. My meniscus was not gone, but it was very compact.
Yeah.
It was still there, but it wasn't completely. He said it was bone on bone, but when we looked at it, it wasn't quite bone on bone.
Because I looked at the X-ray with you too, and
Yeah,
felt the same way.
yeah,
So, how recent was this that you went to this doctor again?
a year ago.
A year ago. Okay. And that's what we found is that a lot of times, like imaging, like an MRI, an X-ray, I don't want to diminish their value because I think they are good tools, but they're not everything. Like in Roxanna's situation here, she had the MRI, she had the X-ray, and the doctor assumed that she was in a lot of pain. He must have missed the part in her chart that said she wasn't. But anyways, like sometimes I shouldn't even say sometimes. I feel like a lot of times surgeons and orthopedic docs will look at an image and they'll make assumptions that are not correct at times. I mean, sometimes the MRI, sometimes the X-ray, and what is shown on those really gives you a good indication of what needs to be done, like a surgery, but sometimes it doesn't. There's a lot of people, they'll have an image, an X-ray or an MRI that looks like Roxanna's, but then they won't have any symptoms. And so you can't just take an image and treat someone solely off of the image. And that's what I've learned with PT is, people ask me all the time, should I get an MRI? That way you know what's going on. And I say, well, I mean, maybe MRIs are great in some regards, but they don't always show you exactly what's going on. And because people get better, even if they have a bad image, a compacted meniscus and tears in the meniscus like Roxanna's had, just because you have that on an image does not mean you can't get better with PT. Okay, so if your symptoms are consistent with what is shown on the MRI, and you have it and you try PT and you don't get better, then chances are you do need a surgery. But there's no reason to just skip conservative treatment and not try that and just automatically go towards surgery, because I've seen time and time again people who have bad images get better without having to have surgery, which Roxanna is one of the best examples we've had of that happening.
Well, just to pop in, like I said, for about 8 months of the treatment, I was still having pain all of the time. I haven't had any pain for a year to speak of. Little twinges here and there, and I make sure I keep up on my bike and my exercises. But I'm not having pain 24 hours a day where I couldn't even turn over in bed without pain.
Right.
I don't have that, and haven't for a year.
That's awesome.
It is.
So now one of the things we did with Roxanna was laser treatment. what's your experience with the laser,
I
Roxanne?
love a laser. but, but I don't know if it's comforting or if it just really works for me. But when I first came in and it was so painful, and they would do the laser, and I've, my treatments, I can feel them last a few days on that knee. And I just believe in it. It just brings the blood flow to the knee and it makes it heal faster and it takes away pain.
Awesome.
And that was a good thing. And so I keep up on my laser treatments just for maintenance because it's not like my knee has suddenly gotten to be this 20-year-old me again. It's still old, but if I feel like if I'm maintaining, I'm going to go farther.
Very good. Um, all right. So going back a little bit, I talked about how, and you kind of mentioned this too, Roxana, that we start off where you with what you can handle and slowly progress.
Yes.
What we do at the clinic, like I mentioned before, is I ask people, well, what are your goals? That way we know what we're working towards. And so I'll take someone where they're at, and let's like say with Roxana, for example, she was having pain all the time. How far could you walk? You said like around your block or half block or something like that?
When I first started, I could only walk about a half a block.
Half a block.
But, then I kept progressing.
Yeah. And so we take where you're at, if you're like Roxanne, you can only walk half a block. Start with that and just incrementally increase the load and the amount of exercises and demand we're placing on the knee to get you to the point where you can walk at Disneyland without having to use a scooter or go up and down your stairs without pain.
Yeah.
And that's how we gauge progress. All right, you revisit those activities that you're having a hard time with, and then see how you're progressing with that. And so it's a process. Trying to find my words here. A process that can take a while, but we're using what you want to accomplish as a way to gauge how therapy is going. Also, we like to do a lot of measurements in the clinic. We like to measure your mobility, your range of motion, your strength. We take pain levels and other things as well that we use these different devices. We use a goniometer. We use what's called a dynamometer, which measures your strength in PSI, pounds per square inch. And then we take those when you're evaluated and we retake those measurements periodically as you're going through therapy to see if objectively those measurements are improving. Like is your quad strength improving? Is your hamstring strength improving? Is your hip strength improving? And then we ask also, all right, if those are improving, is that translating into your function as well? Are you able to walk a longer distance? Are your pain levels decreasing? We're always trying to make sure that we're making good progress with therapy. And if we're not, then we like to collaborate with other doctors and then bring in some of the more non-conservative treatment, like orthopedic docs that can prescribe like an anti-inflammatory or get an x-ray and an MRI at that point. But again, there's no point in going that direction until you've ruled out whether or not conservative treatment is going to help you or not. And I believe personally that most of the time you can get better with conservative treatment, such as physical therapy, exercise, doing the laser, that kind of stuff.
And the physical therapy helps everything. It doesn't just help what you're working on because you're moving and you're exercising. Everything gets better.
Mm-hmm.
I know that I had such a difficult time with doing squats. That was a really difficult thing for me, and I started so slow. And by the time I finally was able to do a squat or work on a total gym at any kind of height, it was just really slow on me. So you put a electric cuff on
Mm-hmm.
my thigh. My thigh had atrophied from the shot, from the COVID shot that I had, and so we used a sleeve for a while with electrical impulse until that leg was awake again and working, and then it was able to catch up in strength to the other leg. Remember that?
I do remember that. Yes.
Yeah.
The shocker. Anyways, so yeah, it was good experience. And are you pleased with your outcome?
Oh yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
And so she's come back for several other problems. Your shoulder, right?
My shoulder.
Then you
Yeah,
had
my
the
shoulder
the
went out.
Baker's cyst issue for a while.
I also had a concussion.
That's
I went
right.
down a water tube, and that was a
Oh man.
mistake, a lapse in judgment. But so I had a concussion that we worked through.
Uh-huh.
I had vertigo.
That's
That,
right.
yeah, my husband made me come in because he was worried about the vertigo. And
And now Bell's palsy.
oh yeah, and COVID, when I do get COVID, it likes to attack my facial muscles, and I get a Bell's palsy effect.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're working on those nerves to bring him back, and it works. I was totally numb in January all through here, and my eye was hurting, and it was hurting and everything. And you haven't mentioned massage. That's one thing that this clinic does a lot of, and they do it well. They will massage the area that needs treatment, and get that moving. And that was something that was for me a new experience to have in PT, that work. And I really appreciated the attention to those areas. And it didn't always feel great. I mean, it's not like you're going in for the spa
It's not
day.
the spa.
Yeah, it's not the spa. But it certainly helped and made a difference in my recovery. I became really sold on that.
Very good.
And Scott hires good people. I love the clinic. They're just good people, and they're fun. And he makes sure to maintain an upward and optimistic feel in the clinic. The music's good.
Depends on who you ask.
Yeah, but the music's pretty good, and it's just he trains his people to take the care so that you feel like you're getting a shot in the arm of optimism and friendship in the process.
It was very nice of you to say, Roxanna.
Well, it's so true. It's so true. I just
Cool.
adopted all these people. They're just good people.
Roxanna's kind of like the clinic mother here. All right. Well, I don't.
Fun.
Is there anything else you want to talk about, or you feel like that kind of sums up your story in a nutshell?
Give me a second.
Okay.
I think that because one of the things that I decided was that I was going to do whatever Scott said to do. And I'd say that to him, I'll do whatever you tell me to do. Just to keep me going, I was going to do it, to give it that really good college try. And what I noticed was that if you're all in, he's all in. If you're whining, he's not going to, well, no, he's still in. But there was a partnership with everybody in trying to get me better. And I appreciated that, and I appreciated the fact that you were all in on my situation. So
Thank you.
yes.
We definitely are all in. So,
Yes.
if any of you who happen to be listening to this have had some knee pain, like Roxanna's had, don't give up hope. Right?
For sure.
Try conservative treatment.
Yeah.
You get a surgery, and sometimes surgeries are necessary. I'm not going to say that everyone can get better without it. Sometimes it is necessary. But again, I would argue that the majority of people can get better without surgery. And
And it's worth it.
yes,
It's really worth it.
it's worth it. And if you get a surgery, there's no going back. You can't reverse a surgery. Um, and so it's a decision that should not be made lightly, and you should rule out all the other options that you have before you get a surgery. And then if you still aren't having success and surgery seems inevitable, then you should consider it. But try conservative treatment first.
And I'm turning 75 this year, and my husband is 77, and both of us, from our experiences with um, deciding to make exercise a regular thing and PT when we need it, have really been blessed by it. Been done a lot of fun things too. So
All right.
lots of we've been hiking in Hawaii and Disney and lots of fun things that I might not have been able to do if I had not gotten busy and started to decide to work.
Very good. Okay. Well, thanks for joining us, Roxanna.
You're welcome.
All right.